student.
Oh, beautiful. Pamela in Mexico City. Tamara in the Netherlands. Tom and Maureen in Maine. And everybody, when you write in the chat, please be sure to do, oh, beautiful. Okay, there we go. Please be sure to do the blue drop down and choose panelists and attendees. That way everybody can see your comment. If above your comment it says panelists only, then only James and I can see your comment. Welcome Marta, welcome Erhard in Denmark, welcome Dawn in Denver. Beautiful, and everybody that's just coming in now, go ahead, share your name and location in the chat. So great to see all of our energy coming in from all around the globe. Sister Bless in London, wonderful. Jackie in London. Amanda in the UK, fantastic. Okay, Ellen in Seattle, Corinna in Zurich. Yay, okay, welcome everybody. Well, let me introduce James to all of you, and then we will begin. So James Burford is a Sivananda Hatha Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga teacher, as well as a Pilates teacher, Ayurvedic massage therapist, and a Reiki master. He is currently co-director of the Yorkshire Centre for Wellbeing in the north of England, an award-winning well-being center. He primarily teaches yoga, Pilates, philosophy, and spiritual practices. Due to his interest in spirituality from a young age, James journeyed to South Asia on a spiritual pilgrimage in 2007. After 2 years of extensive travel, he settled to live in one of India's most ancient and holy cities, Varanasi. In 2012, after 3 years of intensive study, James completed his postgraduate degree in Indian philosophy and comparative religion at Banaras Hindu University. I hope I'm pronouncing these somewhat close.
Very good, perfect so far, yeah, very good.
Okay, great. His academic studies and personal sadhana has focused primarily on yoga, Vedanta, Ayurveda, and Tantric traditions, including extensive personal retreat and immersion into the esoteric teachings of Kashmir Shaivism and training with the Trika School of Tantra Yoga in Rishikesh. During James's stay in the Himalayas in 2008, he learned the mystical art of astral projection. He continues to practice this skill ardently during his time in India, and now teaches workshops on dream travel and astral projection in the UK. And your topic for today, James, is an introduction and guide to dream travel. And so can you begin by sharing with us, when did you first become lucid in your dreams?
The first time, I'll talk about this in the seminar, the first time I became lucid was as a child, actually. And I would have a nightmare, which I think we all did as kids, a reoccurring nightmare. And I recognized the process of the dream moving into the nightmare, into the terror aspect of the dream. And basically I became aware of that process. And I was able to wake myself up and stop the terror aspect of the nightmare occurring.
Wow.
So that was as a child where I started to become conscious in a dream, and it's obviously just to avoid the horror and the terror of a nightmare. And that was really the foundation of the work that I've done since then, really.
Wow, amazing. And so did you continue practicing that all through like the rest of your childhood and teenage years, or did it drop off for a while? How was your journey with that through to adulthood?
So again, I'll talk about this in the seminar, but it was, I started to have some spiritual experiences in my teenage years. And especially when I was 18, I was in Africa. I was a year in Africa, and I was reading the Bible a lot, actually. I was reading Psalms and Proverbs, and something happened then where I went into a very deep state. It was at night in the dream state, but I kind of went up into different dimension. I felt this lifting experience, and I was in this realm of bright light and this very high frequency vibration. And that experience really changed my life. And it was a very profound mystical experience, and it really set me on a different course. And then that led me to India, where I really started to explore this work. So yeah.
Wonderful. Now, do you have a presentation prepared for us that you
I do. I have a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, I need to give you permission on my side. So let me just do
Okay.
that. And
Great.
now you have permission. So
Okay, great. And it's all being recorded and things, I'm assuming.
yes.
Drill. Okay, great, everyone. So welcome to this seminar. I'm really happy to be here and to share this information with you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and I'll start the seminar, the slideshow. Okay, so welcome to this seminar, an introduction and guide to dream travel. Really what I'm going to be focusing on is the lucid dreaming and the astral projection that we've already mentioned, and kind of talk a little bit more about how those two are different and how they are different from dreams, but also look at the significance of dreams. So early experiences, as I was just saying, as a child, I became lucid as a young child. And I used to have, as I mentioned, a nightmare, and it was actually of the Mona Lisa, which is a bit random, but obviously there'll be significance to that. Obviously, the symbology behind that. But as it's not that I used to have it all the time, but it was a reoccurring event, and I started to recognize the process, the structure of the nightmare, the build up before it got to the terror part. And I actually was able to wake myself, and I call this force wake. And I do this quite a lot now. If I'm getting into an uncomfortable situation, I will force wake. I will make myself wake up. And so I learned how to do that from being very young. And another very vivid memory is learning how to fly. So you have obviously the picture of the boy, and I would run as fast as I could, and I'd jump up into the air as high as I could, and I'd do the breaststroke arms. And I had to get enough velocity and jump high enough and work with my arms strong enough to actually take off, to lift off and to fly. And I remember literally practicing that like you would practice a normal skill if you're playing soccer or tennis. And that was a very common theme and thread throughout my childhood, learning how to fly. And I guess remembering, because it would have been a skill obviously from previous lives. And the image there, the top left of the lights, kind of represents what happened when I was in Africa. So I took a gap year after school and before university. And I was, as I mentioned, kind of reading the Bible, and I kind of entered into spirituality through Christianity. And I had a very profound mystical experience. It was in the early hours of the morning, and I was shot up into what I can describe as a realm of light, love, bliss, and it was beautiful, and frequency and vibration. It was just bliss. And a voice actually addressed me and spoke to me briefly, and I came to understand that was my higher self speaking to me. And from that experience in Africa at 18, my life went on a completely different tangent, where I'd already had some spiritual experiences prior to that, but that really was kind of mind-blowing, and that set me on a different tangent altogether. So I went to university and started to read some philosophy, and I studied biology and anthropology, but I really started to get into more philosophical and spiritual concepts, including Buddhist philosophy. And I just knew I had to go to India during my time in university. And so what I took after university, I just took a one-way ticket to India with some money saved, which I'd earned after university. And I I ended up staying there in India for 5 years and a year in China. And I went through a very, quite a transformational process, you could say. It was really incredible. And I was studying Indian philosophy and comparative religion at one of the top universities in India, Varanasi, which is the oldest inhabited city on the planet. Very holy, very sacred, very crazy place. But it was great it really was conducive to my own spiritual development. So I've got 2 pictures here. The first one is when I'd literally just arrived in India. I was just turned 24. And then the second picture is towards the end of my time. Actually, it was on my first yoga teacher training about 6 years later. So I went through a very sort of a real transformational process during that time. In my first year, I went to Rishikesh, which is recognized as the capital of yoga. And I started to have some strong spiritual experiences there, which was where it all started in India. This then led me to McLeod-Ganj or Dharamsala, where the Dalai Lama lives and the Tibetan government in exile are based. And during my time here, I met a chap called Miguel, this chap on the right of that picture of the 4 of us. And he's a Spanish guy. And he was telling me about his experiences where he had an out-of-body experience, but he had no context. He had no spiritual foundation to understand this. And he went to see the doctor, and the doctors tried to essentially lock him up and say he was schizophrenic and get him on medication. And obviously he was very confused. He didn't want to do that. And he ended up speaking to his boss about what he'd been experiencing, and his boss actually was practicing astral projection, and he was able to guide and instruct and help Miguel and teach him how to work with this process. So he was able to really start to develop spiritually. This was while he was in Spain, and then he, like myself, he went to India on this spiritual quest, and we became good friends, and he taught me the technique that he learned during the time I was in the north of India. So Dharamsala is in the Himalayas, and with all the Tibetans and the Tibetan monks. And I just had a great time there. I was kind of teaching Tibetan monks English and teaching some of the Tibetan youths English. But while I was teaching, I had lots of free time. I was practicing yoga and meditation, and it really allowed me to practice this technique that Miguel had taught me. So the technique was quite simple. Basically, you go through a body relaxation. You go through each part of your body in a slow relaxation with the intention to leave your body. And this is done at night. And what happens after some time of practicing that, you move into a place where you get these vibrations throughout the body. And this is everything he described this. And when you get the vibrations, you basically can lift out of your physical body, and you literally separate from your physical body in your energy body. So I was practicing this for 3 months solid. And this was in the Himalayas, winter of 2007, early 2008. And as I was mentioning, wrote in my blog, the Dalai Lama was doing teachings in February of 2008. And I'd been practicing for 3 months, and I'd had some success, had some lucid dreams, but I hadn't had the full separation. And the Dalai Lama was teaching. He'd been teaching for a couple of days, and he took a day off. And he and his contingency of Tibetan monks, they gave a great blessing. They called it an empowerment. And I went to that, and it had mantra and some holy water and various things. And that night I had the first full astral projection out of body experience. And it was mind-blowing. It was, I was so excited the next day. I went to see my Spanish friends, Miguel, and I was just jumping off the wall. I was just so happy, because it really was one of those memories that really stays with you, much like, I guess, having a child or getting married. That kind of significance. And so, yeah, and it was really, really mind-blowing experience. And I've got the image of the hand here, and that gives you a sense that one of the first things I did was when I separated, I looked at my hands. And this is an important part of learning about lucid dreaming, astral projection, is where you start to create an anchor. You start to create something that you can work with that can tell you if you're awake or if you're dreaming. And I'll just read the, I've actually kept a diary since that time, and a dream diary. And again, dream diaries are really important. And so I'm just going to read through the experience because I wrote it down. Okay, so first, my first full astral projection. So I became aware of my body at night and the positioning. My left leg was bent to the knee and my hands were on my hips. The next thing, the vibrations started. I remained calm and let them stabilize. And I thought that this is the body position for my astral projection. After about 3 minutes of the vibrations, I got up. I separated. The top half was no problem. I came through the covers, but the bottom half I had to slide out. It was a bit more tricky, but not too difficult. And I was out, amazing, in my room, but it looked different, larger, more spacious. I think I could see through the curtains and the windows. I looked at my hands. They were dark, but luminous green, like static, with dots flying around. And I thought I wanted to explore my room. I looked out, looked at my sleeping self. I looked normal initially, and then I smiled, and I could feel myself getting very excited, the physical body getting excited. So I clapped my hands and told myself to calm down, and this worked. I examined the feeling of the astral body. How does it feel? And it's just like being a ghost, very light and empty. It felt great. I continued to explore the room. There were photos on the right side of the bed, a girl, tanned, sharp features, in a water park, possibly in Southeast Asia, loads of dolphins in the pictures with her out of water. I knew my time was limited with the astral projection, and the next thing, I was back in my body. And then I put it was like peeling a sticker, that sense of separating, of peeling away. So from that time, that first full experience, I really started to practice regularly. I was practicing constantly whilst I was in India and in China, and the first couple of years of coming back to the UK in 2012, 2013. And so really just had some very crazy, beautiful, wonderful adventures. Just everything you can imagine, going to different planets, working with different beings, different deities, different saints, exploring around, just connecting with friends, connecting with deceased relatives. So many different, you can do anything there. The astral realm that you separate into, the fourth dimension, it is where non-embodied beings reside, where we get the ghostly realm, the ancestor realm, but there's such a large conglomerate of beings and energies which you can interact with. So we start to go into the dreaming process. First, just to understand that dream travel and working with dreams is global in the tribal societies. So I'm just giving some examples of different traditions and tribes that use the dreams and dream travel as part of their culture and their society and their way of life. So the Sonoy people of Malaysia are known as the dream people, and dream sharing is the pivot around which the rest of their community and their life revolves. So these people, they'll get together, they'll share their dreams in the morning, and they'll make very significant decisions for the community based on the information they got from the dreams. The Javara men in Ecuador acquired their arictum, a soul essential for success in hunting and warfare in dreams or visions. And so we have obviously the shamans who really work a lot with the dream world, visionary world, especially in the Americas. So throughout the Mayan era, shamans who practice as healers and dream interpreters are selected for these roles by deities who meet them when they are while they are dream traveling. And among the Maya of Guatemala, shamans are also taught proper curing techniques and ritual procedures through dream revelation. And I don't know if, I'm sure many of you have heard of Carlos Castaneda, but he worked with the Toltecs of Mexico, and their whole spiritual practice was based around dream work. And there's a great book called The Art of Dreaming, which is really worth reading. It's phenomenal, by Carlos Castaneda. I'll mention that again later. Also, of course, you have traditions, the Judeo-Christian tradition, where, you know, there's a lot of mention of dreams in the Bible. Also in the East, in India, in the Hindu, Buddhist traditions, they work with dreams. So really it is ubiquitous, it's global practice in all these spiritual traditions. There's a famous Indian saint called Sri Aurobindo, this chap here, and he wrote a book called The Yoga of Sleep and Dreams. And he talks about two types of dreams. Okay, so I describe them as the pre-3 a.m. dream and the post-3 a.m. dreams. Whereas Sri Aurobindo talks about the normal dreams, which are pre-3 a.m. That's assuming you go to bed at around 10:30, and I'll talk about this a little bit more shortly. And then the dream experiences, which is normally after about 5 hours of sleep. So the dreams, the subconscious dreams, these are typically, you know, when we think about Jungian's dream analysis, when we think of dreams generally, they're very, very symbolic and very purely subjective. Often these are dreams where your subconscious is trying to understand the information that it's been receiving. So for example, or the emotions and the feelings of what's going on internally. So for example, you've been feeling anxious at work and you have a dream where you're being chased by a dinosaur or something like that. Okay, so the dinosaur symbolizes the threat that's perceived by the subconscious. And so you have dreams of that manner, of that ilk. Highly symbolic, purely subjective, which means it's not really you going outside. It doesn't have external reality. It's very much about you processing of what's going on internally. So when I dream in this way, I'll often dream of school friends, and all the different school friends represent a different part of my personality. Okay, so each person, I've learned these over the years, these different characters represent. One guy represents my intellect. He was very smart at school. He represents sort of the intellect, the mind. One guy who works in banking, it represents my relationship with money. There's one guy who was very strong and physically fit at school. That represents my relationship with my physical body, etc. Okay, so it's important to recognize that there are two types of dreams, generally speaking. These first symbolic dreams, and just a side note, you can also receive psychic information in this first 4 or 5 hours, this pre-3 a.m. dream. And that can come very clear and very vivid, where someone's thinking about you, there's emotion, or you're able to pick up on the energy of someone you're close to, like a relative. They may be upset, and you get that information, and that can come through very clearly. So that's what I've also experienced in that first 4.5 to 5 hours. Okay, now the second type of dream is what Sri Aurobindo calls the dream experience. And this is generally after we've had about 5 hours sleep. And this is when we all leave the body and we work into this astral realm, these other dimensions of reality that I've kind of described. And there you can have real experiences. You can have real interactions with other beings, and you can get real information. As we mentioned, the shamans, they use it for hunting, they use it for warfare, they'll use it for medicine, all these different things. And it's a vast landscape of possibility. And this is where we want to focus this time. And it's not, again, normally it's in the early hours of the morning. And I've just put here Brahma Murta. So in the Indian tradition, Brahma means the creator and Murta means the time. It's the time of God, essentially. It's the early hours of the morning between, roughly speaking, 3:30, 3 a.m. to 5:30, 6 a.m. It's a very sacred time. They also have that in, you know, the Kundalini yogis, and you get call to prayer in the Islamic tradition, where they're up in that time frame, and it's when we have the first prayers. This is a very auspicious time for meditation, because it's where the energy is most pure, it's most balanced. It's just before the sunrise, and it's to do with the energy, the ions, the energy of the environment is very conducive to spiritual experiences, meditation and spiritual experiences. So we talked about these different times. I mentioned 4.5 hours, 5 hours, the pre 3 a.m. and the post 3 a.m. dreams. Now, why is this relevant? So each sleep cycle is 90 minutes. Okay. Now, generally speaking, we need about 3 sleep cycles to really recharge, restore, heal, rejuvenate. And this is when we're having those subconscious dreams. We're not out traveling the astral realm. We're just healing. We're resting. The body needs that 4.5 to 5 hours sleep. And that's critical for our health. That's critical for our development. That's critical for our survival. We need to have that 4.5 to 5 hours sleep. As you see on this graph, we start awake at the top and we go into these very deep stages of non-rapid eye movements. Okay, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. This is NREM, the non-rapid eye movement. This is when we're going deep into deep sleep. Again, the body's healing, the body's rejuvenating, the body's restoring. We then, after 1.5 to 2 hours, we briefly have a little spell in the REM state, which is generally where the dream experiences occur. But then we're straight back down into another deep state, not quite as deep as the first cycle, but it's still very deep into that stage 4 of non-REM. We then go back, and then we have a third and final deep state of sleep, the deep sort of delta state of brain waves, where the body is just healing and restoring. Now, there, we don't want to really mess with those hours. They're very important for health. Now, after that 4.5 to 5 hours, it could be 6 hours if you're tired, and you know, you sometimes we need more sleep. So it might be you need 4 sleep cycles. Yeah. But generally speaking, if your life isn't too stressful, you're not desperate for sleep, or you haven't gone to bed really late, you need those 4.5 hours. And then here we can see the REM, the rapid eye movement, the dream state is more extended. And this is where the magic happens. And if we see the hours of sleep, it's around 4.5 to 5 hours to about 8 hours. So it's that sort of 5 hour to 8 hour mark where we can have these amazing experiences. And just briefly, the Tibetans also have an understanding, and dream travel is a very important part of their tradition. So they talk about different types of dreams, samsaric dreams. So samsara is the wheel of birth, rebirth, of karma, of coming back again and again and again because of our desires, because of our karma. So it's important to recognize, this is very important, that your desires, that your wants and needs are going to very much influence your dreams, both the subconscious dreams and the dream travel, the dream experiences. Okay, so it's important. We can work out karma in our dreams, and we're often tested in our dreams, and we often learn in our dreams. Okay, so it can be a playing field for working out desires. These are going to really influence our dreams. Then we have dreams of clarity. This is where we have visions, clairvoyance, prophetic dreams, astral travel. We're learning, we're having teachings, we're developing spiritually, we're developing on this journey of evolution, and we're connecting to the psychic abilities. And then you have the clear light dreams. So these are the blissful non-dual states, similar to the state that I described when I was in Africa, where we are in the clear light of consciousness, where we are in the higher dimension characterized by light, love, frequency, bliss, and non-duality. There is just oneness. There is just an experience of unity. That's very rare. I've only experienced that a few times. But that is a level that's there as well. And also the Indians recognize we do go back to source in the deep state, in those first 4.5 hours, that we are literally going back to source. And therefore, it's essential that we get at least those 4.5, 5 hours of sleep just to function, to be healthy. So in the Indian tradition, we have a recognition of what are called koshas. They're sheaths or layers, bodies. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly talk about this. We have the physical body, the Annamaya kosha. We have the Pranamaya kosha, which is the energy or breath body. We have the Manomaya kosha, which is the emotional, mental body. We have the Vijnanamaya kosha, which is the wisdom body or knowledge body, the deeper, higher intellectual body. And then we have the Anandamaya kosha, the bliss body. And again, in the yogic and Indian tradition, philosophical traditions recognize that, of course, the soul is eternal, that when we die, we shed the physical body and we move off with those other 4 bodies and we explore different realms, and then we may come back for rebirth if we choose to, if we need to. The same idea is when we sleep. The astral body is recognized to be a combination of the Pranamaya kosha, the Manomaya kosha, and the Vijnanamaya kosha. These 3 bodies. So we are literally, we have a body, an astral body, which is separating from the physical body when we sleep. Okay, and here we have images of the Carillion photography, where science is beginning to recognize the energy that is created by the body. Okay, that we are energetic beings, and we have these different aspects to our physicality, to our being. So types of conscious dream experiences, what we're kind of talking about. So the 2 things we've mentioned, lucid dreaming and astral projection. Okay, so a lucid dream is when we become conscious while dreaming. Okay, we wake up in the dream. Like I was describing with the nightmare, I became conscious that I was in a dream, and I was able to take control of the dream. Now, from my experience, there are things you can do to make this happen, absolutely. But for me these days, this kind of just happens spontaneously. Astral projection is what we think of as an out-of-body experience. This is a lot more challenging to achieve. This takes a lot of practice. Lucid dreams can happen spontaneously. You may have experienced lucid dreams. Many of you may have experienced lucid dreams. Astral projection, it generally takes a bit of work and practice. It's more of a spiritual practice and a spiritual skill. This is where we consciously experience leaving the body, separating the body before we fall asleep. So we're lying in bed, the body falls asleep, but our mind is completely conscious and stays awake, which is quite difficult to achieve. And then we separate and we peel away from the physical body. Okay, so, you know, both are great, but what I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about these 2 techniques. So methods for lucid dreaming. So how do we create a lucid dream? Well, as mentioned, when I started to practice the astral projection technique, then I found that I started to have more lucid dreams. Okay, so working with the similar techniques, they work hand in hand. So one of the most important things we can do is we set an intention. Okay, we set the intention to become lucid before we sleep. That's very powerful. When you do these practices, you realize just how obedient the body is and the subconscious is to our conscious intentions and our conscious desires and our conscious and our affirmations. So setting the intention to become lucid, quite simple. Another good technique is, well, very important actually, is to practice remembering our dreams. Okay, and again, Sri Aurobindo talks about this, that when you wake up, we don't want to be moving. We don't want to be, they talk about don't move your head. Okay, so when we wake up in the morning, we're going to review our dreams. First thing we do, what did I dream about? Okay, it does take a process of remembering. When you come back into your physical body, you go through, you'll probably fall asleep. Okay, you'll be asleep and we forget. It's very easy to forget. Oh, I know I had a dream. I know something that was amazing, but I just can't remember. That is a skill in itself, remembering dreams. Okay, so the best way to do that is when you first wake up in the morning, don't move. And just the very first thing is ask yourself, what did I dream about? What did I dream about? And another very effective way of doing that is to keep a dream diary. It's absolutely essential to keep a dream diary. I'd strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you start, if you're not already keeping a journal, that you start straight away. And I've been keeping a diary since 2007 up until now. Got a stack of diaries, and it's so useful to have, not just for the dreams. I record my dreams every night and have been doing so again for, I can't believe now it's 15 years. It's crazy to think. But I also record what's been going on during the day as well. What have my experiences been like during the day? That's really beneficial to have that record of what you've been going through, especially on the spiritual journey. We're on the spiritual journey. We're starting to evolve. We're starting to grow. We're starting to heal trauma. We want to keep a record of what we're experiencing. And the beauty of keeping a dream journal is and a journal with your dreams in is being able to recapitulate, to go back 5 years, 10 years, a year. What was I going through that time? And you can learn a lot. So I really strongly recommend to keep a dream diary. And another thing we can do, as I mentioned, working with the hand, creating an anchor. So we want to create something that we can look at and refer to either when we're awake or when we're asleep. And we ask ourselves, am I dreaming? So if you look at your hand now, you'll see the physicality of it, the solidity of it. Yeah. And you know, therefore, okay, I'm awake, I'm in the 3D. But if you just keep doing that throughout the day, you get into a habit. It doesn't have to be loads, but just get into the habit of looking at your hand, asking, am I awake or am I asleep? And that habit will then translate into the dream, where you'll look at your hand, and then the hand will look more like this image at the top right. And you'll then recognize, yes, okay, I'm in a dream. Okay. And asking the question, am I dreaming? There are other techniques, looking at the watch, flicking the light switch, okay? But looking at the hands is the technique that I like to use the most. So methods for astral projection. So the practice that I was taught by Miguel was the body relaxation. Hopefully you can read that, and intention. Quite simple. You set an intention, then go through the body, each body part one at a time. Start with the big toe. And I literally would do this, okay, especially in those first few years. My big toe is heavy, relaxed, sleepy, and numb. My second toe is heavy, relaxed, sleepy, and numb. My middle toes are heavy, relaxed. And I just went through the whole body like that. And it does take a bit of time. And the danger is that you fall asleep. Okay, so you've got to really, that's the first challenge, is to not fall asleep, because you're going to want to. You've got to keep reminding yourself to stay awake and setting the intention. I leave my body. I astral project. And that's really important. So that's how I first had my first astral projection experience. And that led to the vibrations that then, once they settled, and they have to settle, then you can separate. Another technique is called the phantom wiggling, where you move your fingers without moving them. So you imagine that you're wiggling your fingers. This is while you're awake. You imagine you're wiggling your fingers, but you don't actually physically move them. And what that does, somehow it just seems to wake up the astral body. And I've described that is what happens, is the astral body has to somehow go online. It has to wake up. So what we're essentially doing in an astral projection is we're sending the physical body to sleep. We stay awake, and we're then almost transitioning into the astral body. And the astral body has to almost like come online. And that's what the vibrations, when they start, it's almost like the astral body is being charged up, and you're ready to, or you're moving into that astral body. There's another technique that I used, and that's why I have this image of this blue guy. This is Dr. Manhattan from oh God, I can't remember the name of the comic book now. But anyways, it's a famous comic book, and there's this character, and he's essentially like a god being, and he's glowing blue like this. And for somehow, some way, I learned to do this, to visualize myself glowing blue and the whole surroundings glowing red. And again, that's telling your subconscious or your astral body, recognizing the separation between you in a certain frequency, the astral body, and the physicality, the red, which again is a different dimension, that 3D realm. And that technique seemed to work flawlessly for quite some time, where I just visualized myself glowing blue, just like this guy. My whole surrounding, the bed, the walls, everything else was glowing red, and just seeing myself get up in this blue body. So there are 3 techniques, okay, and they can be used together. And now I use them all together, but equally you can use them individually. I think the body relaxation is very important. The way I understand that is that you are essentially charging your energy body with your awareness. As you bring your awareness through the physical body, you're giving it charge, you're giving it energy, and that is really important. Your so your energy body, your astral body needs energy, it needs charge, okay? And we do this through we can do breathing practices and bringing our awareness through the body, and that body scan, that body relaxation really helps to give the astral body the charge and the energy it needs to separate, okay? And when we get to the vibrations, okay, and that can take maybe 20-30 minutes, 15 minutes, we get these vibrations. Now, when I was first told about these vibrations, I just thought they would just be like a nice little gentle, buzz in the body, but they're actually really quite strong. And the next challenge, after not falling asleep, the next challenge is to not, if you get to the vibrational stage, the next challenge is to not get scared or not get overly excited. Okay, so this is an obstacle that I had to overcome. When the vibrations start, it's quite scary because your whole body just starts to vibrate, starts to shake. There's been a time where I was spinning around the room on the axis of my heel, just spinning in a circle round and round. You'll feel the arm might go through the bed. All these weird things start to happen. Now, if you can stay calm and you breathe and stay relaxed, don't get overly excited, don't get scared, the vibrations start to even out throughout the body. They start to balance out, they start to calm. And at that point, that's when we separate, okay? Now, there are different methods for separating, leaving the body. Rolling out, you just roll out like you would do normally physically, roll out. You literally get up, and this is my favorite. I just like to get, literally like you're getting out of bed normally, exactly the same, you get out. Climbing out, you can visualize imagine a ladder and you can climb out. It's not something I've done personally. Levitation, like in this lady, this image, this woman, she's levitating out. That's something that I've done sometimes. And falling out, you can, similar to rolling out, you kind of fall out, you go down, you go through the bed. From my experience, the main one that I use is getting up, because it's so familiar to us. You just literally get up like you'd normally get out of bed. And then you get this sensation of a sticker peeling away from the paper. It is like a peeling away. It's it's not always a clean process. And this is why the energy body needs to be strong. There are many times when I've gone to separate and part of me has been stuck in the physical body. I've not had a clear separation, a clean separation. Many times I've come out of my body and I've had no vision. This is quite common, okay? And so there are a whole load of techniques which you need to do, called deepening techniques, to make the astral projection, to make it more solid, to make it more stable, because it can be very unstable. And But generally, certainly the first experience that I talked about, a lot of the time you do get a clean separation, and then you can have this, you're in this new realm, and it's the same, but it's different. You know, the astral realm is kind of superimposed on the physical realm, and you can explore, and you're in the same room, you're in the same bedroom, and you can explore, but there are things in that realm that aren't normally there in the physical realm. Okay, so that, and then once you're out, then the fun begins. Then you can go, and there's all sorts of different things. That's, you know, for another time to talk about what you can do. There are techniques to call people to you, to go to other places, to travel, and you know, that's sort of the next step. But I'm really wanting to lead you to a place where you can start to have these experiences. Okay, and it's not that. It takes practice, and if you have a really busy life and you're not getting enough sleep, and you're having a really heavy late evening meal, you're going to bed, you know, and you're only getting 4 or 5 hours sleep, you work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, don't expect to have these experiences. There has to be a time in the day, there has to be space in the day where you can practice this. If you don't have a really crazy schedule, then you'll be able to do this. If you've got a very busy schedule, or you don't have as much sleep as you really need, you know, that good 8 hours, 7.5, 8 hours, then it's going to make this very difficult. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's going to make it more challenging. Okay, so there are many different factors that we can do outside of what I've just described, outside of the technique, that can allow us to have these experiences. Really, what we're doing here, we're bringing our awareness. I mean, spirituality is essentially self-awareness. Now, if our goal of meditation and spiritual practices is to become more aware, to have a greater degree of self-awareness throughout the day, why would we stop that when we sleep? Why should sleep just be lights out, forget it, you know, and then we wake up? What happens is, when we really embrace the spiritual journey, this process in this journey of self-awareness, mindfulness, self-understanding, we start to bring that awareness into our dream state, into our dream realm. We remember our dreams on a nightly basis. We start to understand the symbology of the dreams, the lessons. I learned so much from my dreams, so much information, so much guidance. It's the #1 guidance system I have. I remember the dreams every night, and it really helps to navigate life, because there's so much information there. And if you ask, and if you want it, and sometimes you don't even ask, it can just happen by grace. You know, there are energies and beings who will assist you and can help us, including your higher self, that's always trying to guide you to that sort of next level of growth. So if we embrace the spiritual path, the spiritual journey, we work with the spiritual practices, it's going to be very conducive to then starting to have these dream experiences. Again, there are lots of other things that I'm not going to go into, but physical health is important. Gut health is important, making sure we have a clean gut. If you don't remember your dreams, if you really struggle to remember your dreams, try all the things that I've described, but also look at detoxifying the body. Okay, the dream body resides in the gut. If we're very clogged up, if we're very kind of toxic gut in the gut, we're going to struggle to have these dream experiences. So have a colonic therapy, see a colonic therapist, do some cleanses, and it's going to help clean you out, and you're going to find that you're going to start to remember your dreams. So I'm just briefly talking about a process that we kind of talked about for astral projections, or even for lucid dreams. Now, what I haven't really stressed is that all my experiences generally happen between that 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. time, okay? And we've kind of already touched on that and why that is. The first 5 hours of sleep are essential. We need those for healing and health and recovery. What would happen, I would actually practice the technique before I went to sleep. So let's say I went to sleep at 10:30. I would go through this process at 10:30 and I would fall asleep. And that's fine, no problem. But what started to happen when I started to do that was was I started to wake up around this 3:30, 4 a.m. time, just naturally. Now I've got a book for you, an ebook, and it goes through all these things, these techniques. I'll talk about this in a second. He talks about Michael Raduga. He talks about 6 hours. For me, it's not. It can be 4.5 hours, 3 sleep cycles, or 4 sleep cycles, 6 hours. So it doesn't. Don't be shocked if you're waking up and it's 4:30 or 5 and not 3:30. Okay, so it just really depends on various factors. But generally speaking, after 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep, I wake up spontaneously. Now you can use an alarm. Okay, so that is a possibility. Use an alarm and set it for after 5 hours. And then you will wake up obviously with the alarm. Hopefully you've had your good sleep. Go to the bathroom, get up, walk around. These days I'll meditate and do some dream work, do some breathing, a strong breathing practice, then go back to bed. And we do need those extra hours of sleep to be fully healthy and creative and effective in the world. And so really, when you do this technique as you sleep, before you go to bed, you may find that you start to wake up spontaneously if you're not doing so already. Now, what I will say is, if you remember your dreams already, if you are waking up at 3:30, 4 a.m. already, you will be perfect for this practice. You'll be very ready for this practice. Okay. If not, you can still bring these things about. But if you remember your dreams very vividly, and if you are waking up, or if you're waking up at this time naturally, 4 a.m., assuming you've gone to bed around 10, you will be perfect to work with this practice. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're not doing those things. You can set an alarm, you can work with these other techniques to start remembering the dreams. But if you're in that position, because I guess everyone's here coming from different points of view and different experiences, so just to try and really give you guidance for all different levels. But I'd recommend you all practice this. So anyway, the process that we go through. So just briefly, we set the intention. For example, I leave my body consciously. I astral project. We then go through the body relaxation from toe to crown, quite arduously, quite slowly and deliberately. We then repeat the intention. We then use a technique, e.g. the phantom wiggling, or visualizing yourself glowing blue. Or you can, there's lots of other techniques where you can generally visualize yourself leaving your body. Okay. And then you essentially wait for the vibrations. Now, I think in the early days, I used to repeat the body relaxation multiple times. Okay. I used to repeat that body relaxation twice and really work with the intention. I then started to use other techniques, for example, the phantom wiggling and the blue being, the blue body. And so I only maybe need to do the body relaxation once. And once the vibration's calm, you lift out. So this is a whole load of text, and I talk about the plan of action, and I'm not going to go into this now, but I talk about working with protection, working with ceremony, working with geometry, working with meditation and breath work, all to help allow us to have these experiences. And I run a workshop, they call it the Spiritual Warrior Workshop, 3 workshops where I give you all the tools to do these things. The first workshop is all about breathing. We need to charge the energy body through breath, pranayama, breathing techniques to charge the energy body. The second workshop is all about protection, ceremony and protection. When I go to sleep, it's like a ceremony. I call in the directions and I say various prayers. And I'm wearing particular clothes. I always have a bath beforehand, like purifying cleanse. There's lots of different things, and I work with various protection scripts, and this is very important. So you have that safe, and also crystals in the room, and all sorts of things. So in the second seminar, I talk about this, and then the third seminar, once we've got the foundation of the breath and the protection, then I talk about this dream work that we're talking about now. Okay. So this is coming to the end of the seminar. I just want to gift you with this wonderful book called The Phase, okay, Shattering the Illusion of Reality by Michael Raduga. So after a couple of years of practicing this, I discovered this book. It was an ebook, and I've got an ebook for you. And Jocelyn will send it to you, where it kind of, he really helped. There's a lot of books on astral projection, but this one really helped. It confirmed a lot of my experiences. And he really helped talk about, you know, when I would separate and wouldn't have vision, he went through a lot of the deepening practices, and he talks all these experiences that I was having are confirmed in this book. And it's really, it really helped me on my journey. Okay, so this is a gift for you. Hopefully you'll be able to get a copy there. It's a PDF. And you can also buy it on Amazon. Okay, some other resources to help you with your dream work. Okay, I mentioned Carlos Castaneda, very famous, I think Spanish anthropologist who went and lived with the Toltec shamans of Mexico, very powerful beings. And he wrote a whole load of books, including The Art of Dreaming, which is phenomenal, talks all about their dream work. And another one of his great books is Tales of Power. So we also have Sri Aurobindo, Sleeps and Dreams. That's a good book. Talks to kind of covered some of that information. And also an amazing movie, The Waking Life. Okay, this is phenomenal. This is a movie where this guy, as you can see here, he's trapped in a lucid dream. And it talks a lot about the lucid dream process. And it gives teachings, but also it goes through his journey of going into more and more surreal, deeper dream states. He has all these philosophical and spiritual conversations with all these different people, and it's done in Photoshop, and it's kind of superimposed over the real life filming. So it looks kind of real, but also it's got that cartoon look to it, which allows it to become very, gets very surreal and abstract as he goes deeper into his dream, into his lucid dream. But it's a really amazing movie, definitely worth watching. And so this is the end. So thank you very much for sitting through this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative and helpful. So just some of my details. I wrote a blog on that first astral projection experience. So Gopala Yoga, so my spiritual name is Gopala. gopalayoga.co.uk /blog. There's the blog about the astral projection. You can see my personal website. The main website, I work at a centre in North England, Yorkshire Centre for Wellbeing. This is where we put things like our workshops, and I've started to do more online seminars now, obviously with COVID. So if you're interested in seeing some of the workshops that we're doing or joining the mailing list, we're there, www.yorkshirewellbeing.co.uk. And then you've got my personal email. If you've got any questions or any feedback post seminar, or if you're interested in the spiritual workshop, spiritual warrior workshop, if there's enough interest, I'll look to do an online workshop there. So thank you so much for being part of this. I'm going to stop sharing now and come back to Jocelyn.
Thank you, James. That was incredible. That was, really powerful to go fully into, how can we do this for ourselves? And really interesting to me, the state of the body, being so important so that the energetic body has enough energy. And we have a couple questions in the chat actually related to that and other things. Do you mind if we ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely, yeah, more than happy.
So let's see. Sandra is asking, do medications prevent, influence, or block this process of remembering dreams or achieving astral travel?
I think it depends on the type of medication. Not that I can speak from personal experience, but I would imagine that if you're taking medication that's altering your mood, so for example, antidepressants, there's a good chance that's going to influence your sleep and your dreams. I mean, even something like taking a heavy evening meal will dramatically influence the quality of your dreams. So one of the good techniques to practice is a light early evening meal, and that means your body is not using all its energy to digest during the sleep process. The sleep is not meant for digestion. Sleep is meant for healing, rejuvenation, and then for having these crazy experiences. So my answer to that is, if it is certainly mood altering, energy altering, I'd say yes. But if it's something like paracetamol or you know, some other medication which doesn't really affect your mental state or your energetic state, I would say probably not.
Okay. Very interesting. And so Emer is asking, why would you choose to control your dream? And maybe what are the benefits of doing this?
It's a good question. It's a good question. What I have come to realize is that your dreams are full of wonderful information anyway. Okay, so we don't always have to, you don't necessarily have to control your dreams. The dream world is full of wonderful wisdom and guidance. And a lot of the dreams that I have, that we all have, it won't necessarily be in a lucid dream. We get all the information we need just from a normal dream. So on one level, it doesn't matter. You don't need to do any of this. If you already remember your dreams, then great. You're getting that fountain of wisdom and guidance. On the other side, there are so many benefits of being able to control your dreams. You literally have a universe available to you. You can go to different planets, you can have different experiences, you can meet different people. I've worked a lot with spiritual masters. So my guru, the guru lineage, Yogananda, Babaji, these are non-physical beings, and I've kind of worked with them quite a bit. Other deities, other saints. When, say, you want to connect with somebody, you can call them in and you can work with someone, whether they're living or they've deceased. So that can be very comforting. You go through, we can meet different beings on different star systems. There's so much we can do. Literally, the opportunities are endless. Is whatever you can imagine. There are laws, okay? There are laws to the astral realm. It's not like you can just do anything. There are certain laws, okay? There are certain physics, but the physics are very different to the 3D. It's very fluid. It's non-mass. It's purely energetic. You can travel instantaneously. You can create things with your intention. You can call people to you with your intention, but there are still certain laws that you have to follow. But yeah, the opportunities are phenomenal if you really go into it.
Wow. And how would you compare this? I'm just curious about how it feels, right? And how it feels to navigate in that space. And I want to try it very soon.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How does it, like, as compared to an entheogenic medicine experience? Could you give, like, how is it maybe in comparison to that?
Okay, yeah. I think if you take psychedelic, you're still aware of there are a lot of similarities because you're aware of your physical body when you take an entheogenic, but you're also in a different realm. So I'd say if you take an entheogenic, there is that duality where you're aware of your physical body, but you're in a different realm of consciousness in your psychology. When you dream travel, you can be aware of your physical body, but that wouldn't necessarily be a very clean separation. Generally speaking, you don't think about your physical body. You're in your astral body. So on that first astral projection experience, one of the first things I did after I looked at my hands, I literally meditated, closed my eyes and asked, what does it feel like to be in my astral body? And it was like, it feels like I'm dead and it feels amazing. And at that point, all my fear of death just disappeared. To die is phenomenal. Like, to be in your astral body, you're completely massless, completely weightless. So all the challenges we have with the physical body, the density, the aches, the pains, the trauma that's in the physical body, we just drop. It's like just we let it go and we're free. We're free and we float, and we can, and it's just a very liberating experience. So there are definitely similarities with psychedelic experiences, but at the same time, it's quite different.
Okay, maybe you're more free of the body in this case.
Yeah, completely free of the body. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. The 3 to 6 a.m. is also very interesting to me because I will often have experiences during that time of being like working with a big group of people, and we're traveling and we're working on a big project and we're accomplishing something, and that's all I can remember when I wake up. But I like the 3 to 6 a.m. gives me a new perspective on what's happening there. Yeah, in my dreams, we're all working on a project together, and so it makes me think maybe it's more real than I know.
With all the work you're doing, all the amazing work you're doing, I wouldn't be surprised that, obviously you're working astrally. And the thing is, we continue our lives in the astral realm. I remember when I was in China and I'd leave my body and I'd just see my neighbors. I was teaching English and there was a couple and they were just kind of like pottering around the flat. They were just doing the things they would normally do when they were awake. And so we do have a life. We have different personalities. We have different aspects of ourselves that have their own lives. So our astral being has its own personality, its own thing. It's doing its own thing. And it's often doing things like that, working with other people, planning, collaborating, going on crazy journeys, flying around and doing all sorts of things. So yeah, that sounds like it. That's probably what you're doing in the astral.
Yes. Well, one more question for you, James. So, in this Aquarian Wisdom Festival, we're really looking at what are the new insights, what are the new ways of seeing and perceiving that can help us to build a bright new future, right? And so what are your thoughts on how this can help us to, move toward that goal or that intention?
So there's a teacher that I follow. He's called Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian, and he's really phenomenal. He's got a great skill in that he can read anyone's Akashic records. He knows everything about you from when you first came into this universe. It's phenomenal what he can do. What he talks about is that this time that we're in, the Great Awakening, is actually first going to happen in the dream world, where we start to unify together in the dream world, and we start to have the very early stages of the awakening, which arguably we're in right now. Is, you have those deja vus, and you think you've met someone and you can't, or spontaneous healings after having a dream. He talks about that the Great Awakening is first going to happen actually astrally in the dream world, where we're all going to kind of connect on that level, and then it's going to start to manifest on the physical realm. So I think there is great potential for individual growth and evolution and experiences, and to have experiences of grace and have teachings, but also collectively I feel that astrally we are connecting energetically. We are connecting as a species, as a global community. We're connecting on levels that maybe we don't fully see or understand, but on an energetic level, because the astral realm is the realm of energy. It's feelings, emotions, thoughts. That is the substratum of the astral realm. So I believe that we are connecting as a global consciousness on an astral level. It's almost like the blueprint, the foundation for when we're ready to unite, in the physical as a collective consciousness. So that's my personal perspective on it.
Yes, thank you for that. Really powerful perspective. Yeah, fascinating to think, and it makes sense, right? That if we're more free in that realm, we can more easily construct what we need to, and like get practice before bringing it into the physical realm, which is much more challenging to deal with.
That's it. It is the blueprint, I'd say, of the physical realm. It's the blueprint where we create the blueprint for what we want to experience physically. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Do you mind if I ask you one more thing? Because somebody
sure,
has
absolutely.
a question in the chat.
I love to talk about this stuff. So,
So Emer is asking, would children be more natural at astral travel? My daughter's friends say that she's in their dreams often.
Yeah, absolutely. So children, work on a different frequency. Their brains, they're normally in alpha, depending on the age. But say 5 to 12 years old, the brain is working differently. So children are in a more, you could argue, like spiritual state, a natural state. It's a more joyful state. Children can connect to spiritual realms. They can literally see the fairies. When they say they're seeing fairies or seeing ghosts, they are actually seeing these beings because their frequency of their brain is tuned into the astral realm more naturally. So they are naturally more attuned to the hidden realms, to the astral realms, based on the alpha brainwave state that they operate on. So what happens is, yes, kids are often very lucid in their dreams or remember their dreams. But I've heard this multiple times where I've had these conversations with lots of different people. Where I've heard reports where as a child they'd have these experiences. They'd separate, they'd walk around, they'd look in the mirror and they wouldn't see themselves. They'd have the experience of separating, of having an astral projection as a child, but they would get scared. Either the actual experience would scare them, or they may have some scary person at the end of the bed, or some being, and that being could be a good being, it could be not so nice. There are some unpleasant beings out there in the astral, but I've heard this report over and over where kids get scared and they kind of shut down the ability. And I think that happens generally when we go into our teenage years and things like that. We just shut down these abilities. So I'd say with a child, like I think I was lucky growing up, because when I was a kid, my mum used to read prayer. We'd have prayers before we went to bed. So we used to have the angel of God, because I've come from a Catholic background. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God love commits you here. Over this night, be at my side to watch the guard, to protect. Amen. And just that prayer, I think, really assisted me in those early experiences, that intention, creating the protection. So my advice would be, if you have a child who's having these experiences, that's wonderful. Maybe you can look at some sort of spiritual practice that's appropriate for a child to assist them.
Yes, very powerful. And everybody, I just want to announce again James's free gift here. So I'm going to put that in the chat. And if you're listening on YouTube, I can't put it in the chat over there. So it's aquarianwisdomfestival.com/James-Burford, Burford. So you can navigate there. The free gift is linked there. And what is the name of the name and author of the book again, James?
So Michael Raduga. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Check it out. It's a good book.
For your workshop, then, if people are interested in that, how should they communicate with you? Should they email you, or what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, I think email would be the easiest. It's I think with lockdown, I haven't done any of these workshops for a little while. I've been focusing on my yoga work and things like that. But if there's enough interest, then I'd definitely look to run that. So you can just drop me an email, and yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from you if you have any thoughts. Yeah, it'd be great to hear from you.
Okay, and what's the best email to use for that? And I'll put that in the chat too.
Sure. So it's james@yorkshirewellbeing.co.uk. So let me just see. I can always write it if you prefer.
I think I got it.
james@yorkshirewellbeing.co. Yep, perfect. Great.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in that workshop, let James know at that email. And wow, thank you again, James. This has been such a pleasure, really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who's joined, and thank you, Jocelyn, for the opportunity to share this. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Yes, so glad you're a part of this. And so everyone on here, thank you so much for being with us live on day 2. We have day 3 coming up tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. New York time. And we have a really powerful lineup for tomorrow. So be sure now to check your email. There's an email that just went out with links to all the replays from today, including our pre-recorded interviews for today. And so hope you'll really enjoy those. And I'll see you back again at this Zoom link at 11 a.m. New York time tomorrow. So lots of love, everybody. Blessings.
Cheers, guys.